Federal officials say water systems in at least a dozen states have been breached by cyber attacks, and that the list could grow. Joining us now is CBS News Homeland Security and Justice correspondent Nicole Sganga to tell us more. Nicole, I've heard you talking about it this week, and it was really fascinating to me. We had up a map showing all the states affected here. How did they detect this, and are the water systems safe?
Let's start with there have been no impacts to the drinking waters in affected communities nationwide, Margaret. I think that's important for viewers to understand. Only 5 of the dozen affected states have publicly acknowledged it. You'll see it on the map. But operators realized that something was wrong here when they could not access their own computer systems. Essentially, they were locked out by these malicious cyber actors. And what we know right now is that cyber attackers have been going after the industrial control systems, essentially the small computers that operate the pumps, the valves, the water flow, and the water pressure. And they've been doing that because so many of these systems are remote controlled and were under COVID, which enables them to face the internet directly. And there are just not the firewalls in place to protect these systems. In fact, many of them use default or weak passwords, essentially enabling these attackers to go right in at least one case. And this is of particular concern to the FBI. Not only did attackers enter these exposed industrial control systems, but they actually messed with something called the ladder logic, which essentially gave new instructions to the computer about how to operate this system. Now, again, we've caught this so far, but this is a real concern.
So there were instances back in 2023 when these Iranian-linked hackers were accused of accessing water systems. In July of this year, Homeland Security, which has that division, CISO, which is supposed to be protecting these things, said that there was concern about Iranian-affiliated cyber targeting across critical infrastructure. Is that the government saying Iran did this?
I think a lot of cyber experts are saying if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably Iran. But there are some nuances here. This campaign, like you mentioned, resembles previous Iranian-linked campaigns, right? You have targeting exposed industrial controllers, exploiting this weak sort of authentication, a willingness, by the way, to create actual disruption, Margaret. So oftentimes when we see Chinese-linked cyber attacks, Volt Typhoon, what the Chinese want is just to gain a foothold in the system and to lay quiet. Here we're seeing actual disruptions, which is part of previously the MO for Iran. That being said, these are very unsophisticated attacks. And so there are a plethora of cyber actors who could be responsible for this, including those who might be trying to mimic Iran. This is why it's very important to not just look at the behavioral similarities, but for the FBI and DHS to use intelligence and to attribute these publicly, which could take weeks or months in many cases because the forensic systems are just not good in these water municipalities. Last thing here, how we respond in and of itself is a signal, right? If a nation state can degrade water systems in roughly a dozen states and the response is just a shrug and an advisory, that is an invitation to foreign adversaries in the future to take a hit on U.S. critical infrastructure and expect no consequences.
Such a key point. Nicole Sganga, thank you for your reporting.